Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. We missed him last week. We had a wonderful series, a wonderful class with Rabbi Shmuel Hershler. It was excellent. You can find it on June 11th in our YouTube stream. Feel free to check it out if you didn't catch that, but I look forward to being back with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing. Shalom, Rabbi Goldberg. So good to be with you today and many others in the Zoom room. We're going to turn the class over to you, and we look forward to learning more.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. Blessings from Jerusalem. Yes, I missed you all last week. We had some sort of a wedding for one of our friends. And I've heard also from Rabbi Hershler that he enjoyed it and it was good. So I'm happy that I'm not the only one. By the way, this afternoon, we sat down with Rabbi Ingberg Carmi for a long discussion that is going to get more involved.
Yeah, his series on the book of Nehemiah, I got lots of comments on last week. He did an excellent job, and he's going to continue it today, later on in just a few hours. So,
yes, from Israel, but he's going back to the United States, and he will be in Dallas area and all of the area there. And he's going to get more and more involved in the Noahide World Center. So I think it's very good. It's very good. The truth is, I organized one thing, but I got a very interesting email from James this week. You can say hello. And this email, so I've decided to do something a bit else, and we're going to learn something that I think it's very important. It's one of the essential things. By the way, I think that in the last few weeks, we've learned a lot of very fundamental issues done also with the resources. So what I want to do now is to learn something from the Kuzari book. Okay, we know the Kuzari book. We've heard about it. We spoke about it. And the book of the Kuzari is on one side it's a true story. On the other side, it's from the imagination of Rabbi Yehuda Levi. So we don't have the exact wording. Okay, the true story is saying that there was a king in the Khuzarian region. It's more or less in the region of the Ukraine of today, that he searched for the truth and he decided to convert and to become a Jewish, not only him, but also all of his population, all of his nation with him. And we know that there was for a few hundred years later on also a kingdom, a Jewish kingdom there in the Khuzarian area. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Levi is taking it, it was 1200 years ago, this true story. And Rabbi Yehuda Levi is taking it after 400 years later, and he's teaching, or is taking this framework of this story and showing the fundamental points of the Judaism. One of the most important things of this book is that he is speaking like he is already in Israel, and he's not trying to explain or to give excuses why the Judaism is also good. He's speaking like the Judaism, the Hebrew nation, is the right way, and all of the rest, they don't really know what they're doing. So it's interesting because he was in the middle of the exile. So I want to learn something, and it will answer James' question, and also then I will explain what was the question and why we have those things in a different, why we see things in a different perspective. I will say it like that, and fair enough. So for that, let's jump straight ahead inside to the Kuzari.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yes.
When you say Kuzari, how do you spell that? That's a resource, right?
Yes, of course. We're going to see the
Kuzari is K-U-Z-Z, or K-U-Z, I think, R-I, or Kuzri. It's
K-U-Z.
from, the kingdom was called the Khazars in history. Let me just get
K-U-Z is a zebra, R-I.
No, there's no English.
A-A-R-I.
See this? Here it
Or
is.
there's only one Z. K-U-Z-A-R-I.
Okay.
You have it here. This is, you will find it, this is also in the Yiddish. You want to see it in Yiddish? This is you can see my screen, right?
Okay.
You can see my screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
This is a book, okay? This is a book. What we're going to do now, we're going to learn one part of the Kuzari, or part of the book of the part of the, not this one, sorry.
We did a whole series on the first book. Excellent material. It was the very first series I ever did with Rabbi Goldberg about 5 or 6 years ago now, and it's available on to hear the lessons.
On Sefaria, yes, you can find it on Sefaria. In a moment, we're going to open it in. Let me move you a bit aside. Let's go to the. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Let's find the English. Here it is. People are asking me today. Also, someone asked me if it's okay that he is learning the Tanya. Now that it will be more clear. Okay, I'm saying it from time to time, so I will say this again. Here we have a lot of books that are related with the ideology of the Hebrew faith. Okay, so it starts with all sorts of books 600, 700, 800 years ago. Okay, Rabbeinu Nissim, Akedat Yitzchak, Chovot Alvot, never mind all of those names. One of them is a Kuzari, and we have the Moreh Nevuchim for the Maimonides, and also the Ralbag, Sefer HaIkarim, okay? All of those books that you can see how many books? And only, I will say, only around here, no, sorry, after that, it is. Only here in this area, so after we're speaking about only in those are until the 18th, 19th century, only now we're starting to speak about the Tanya. The Tanya is an important book, but it's really not one of the most, I will say, important books. So fair enough. Just that you will know, okay? You won't find it here so fast. So we want to go to the Kuzari, to the first essay. There are 5. We want to have it in English, right? How do you say it? How do you do it in English? Excellent. Here it is in English. We can't ignore. The main thing here in the Kuzari, I will say, a few words of the opening. The opening of the Kuzari is that there is some sort of a dream. I will say it in a different way. There is some sort of a will, of a wish, of something that the king is trying to fulfill. He's feeling that he is lacking. He wants some sort of a relation with the creator of the world. He is worshiping idolatry, and all of the time he's feeling that something that is not right. So he have a dream all the time that is telling him, go and seek and look for the truth. And then he's starting to look for the truth. He's speaking with a philosopher, he's speaking with the Christian people, with the Muslim people, and then he's speaking with the Hebrew people. Now, for that, now we're going to read the beginning of the opening of the Hebrew people, and we're going to see how much how much the mindset is really different from the other way of thought and the Hebrew people. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Again, we're seeking for the truth. So it starts in, here it is. Please read number 10. Okay, after he spoke with all sorts of also with the philosopher, with the Christian person, and with the Arabic person, Muslim person.
So the backdrop is that the Khazars were squished and were known to hire out mercenaries to fight with the Christians and then with the Muslims, and they got squeezed between the Muslims and Christians in around the 800s, and they were being forced to either convert to Islam or Christianity rather than play both sides of the fence. And instead of becoming Christian or Muslim, they decided to become Jewish because the king of the Khazars had a dream, a vision, and he had a lot of angst about issues, and so he asked well, the way the story's written is he asked the rabbi for the answers. So, point 10, Al-Khazari says, indeed, I see myself compelled to ask the Jews because they are of the relic of the children of Israel. I see that they constitute in themselves the evidence for the divine law on earth. He then invited a Jewish rabbi and asked him about his belief.
How Rabbi Yehuda Levi is writing this book is that the Christian and the Muslims told him that everything is based on the stories of the Hebrew people. So he said, so I'm forced to speak with the Hebrew people. Now let's see, when he's asking the rabbi, what do you believe in? Let's see the answer of the rabbi, please. Number 11, please.
Number 11, the rabbi replied, I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, who led the children of Israel out of Egypt with signs and miracles, who fed them in the desert and gave them land after having made them traverse the sea and the Jordan in a miraculous way, who sent Moses with his law and subsequently thousands of prophets who confirmed his law by promises to the observant and threats to the disobedient. Our belief is comprised in the Torah, a very large domain.
Basically, what he's answering him, that he is not believing in God who created this world. He believes in God who took the Hebrew people out from Egypt and led them inside the desert and brought them to the Hebrew land as promised to their fathers, to the oligarch fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, before we will see the small, I will say, discussion that is starting to come from here, I want to jump for a moment. Few steps, okay, and to read number 26. Let's see here for a moment, number 26. And this is very important, this one. Just a moment. No, this is 20. I want to go to 26. Sorry. Let's go to 26, please.
Al-Khazari says, if this be so, then your belief is confined to yourselves.
Now, this is the most, I will say, surprising part. Because if everything that we're saying is related with God who took us out from Egypt, moved us inside the desert for 40 years, and brought us to the promised land. So basically, it's some sort of, I will say, an internal relationship between God and the Hebrew people. And it's not related to the rest of the world. Right, James? Right, it's very simple. If you're asking me, what do I believe in? I believe in God who took me out from Egypt. Fair enough, but he didn't took the American people out from Egypt, and he didn't took the England people out of Egypt. Therefore, it's related only to the Hebrew people. Right? Very simple, very clear, very simple. Now, what I want to say, and I'm going to surprise all of you, okay? I don't care. In a moment, we're going to answer all of those things. But let's go step by step. I don't care if the, what we call it, the archaeological people found things that can prove that the story happened or didn't happen. I don't care. You know why? Because in our, I will say, environment of our nation, it is part of the nation that this story happened to us. Now, it was 4,000 years ago. So maybe the archaeologist people can't find the exact things that are noting that this happened or didn't happen. But you can't take a full, large 600,000 people, only the men's side, okay? Think about this, that most of them were also married with women. So we're speaking about twice the amount, and they had kids, and they had grandparents and everything else. All of them suddenly one day are saying, a few years ago, we were all slaves in Egypt, and now we are all living freely in the promised land, because and you're going to your neighbor and he's also saying the same thing. And if it didn't happen, everybody will say, you're crapping us. You decided to say those things from nonsense, from nowhere. So it's something that happened, and we are living, we'll say, in this way. So maybe the archaeologists, people found something, maybe they didn't. Maybe they can nominate about this and this thing that they found, that this is showing that it happened or didn't happen. The Hebrew nation is living in a situation where they passed through this event in their life. And I don't need any proof of the archaeologists that will give me a stamp that it happened. You with me, James? I can't hear.
I hear faith.
Of course. Well,
Faith.
You don't need only. You're not only hearing faith. That's what I want to say. It's not only faith. When you're saying that something happened to a large amount of a group of people, not 1 or 2 or 12 messengers or something like that, or between one and his one prophet and his one student, something that happened to a full nation. And this is something that happened to our forefathers. And since then, every year on Passover, we're sitting down and we're saying this story. Now, if this didn't happen, okay, so we have nobody will try today, for example, okay, go today, James, today and say to all of the American people that last year there was this and this occasion that changed everything, and all of you came from Europe to the United States in I will say it like that, in 5 days, in 40 days, or in 40 years even. Everybody will say to you, what are you crapping us? I will ask you something else. What boat discovered the United States, America? Do you know the name of the boat? Who knows the name of the boat?
No, I don't know. I just know.
Mayflower.
Yeah, I know about that. Yes.
Okay. Who was the main people in this boat, except for what's his name?
Christopher Columbus. Yeah.
Except for Christopher Columbus. Do you know all the names there that were there?
No.
No.
Christians.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Go to the Bible, and you will see exactly all the names of the people who were there in Egypt and went out. In our family. Okay. In our nation. We, I will say it like that. The story was on us. We passed this story. Our forefathers passed this story. So maybe the archaeologists of today can't find, some sort of a proof that it happened. We are not living because, or we are not believing on this story because of the archaeologists. We're believing in this story because we passed this story.
Yeah, you would think if it didn't actually happen in 4,000 years, somebody would have leaked that, right? And yeah, it's been the Jewish testimony for 4,000 years or 3,500 years that this is in fact the case. And if it was not in fact the case, somebody would have said something somewhere along the record. So it is their history.
We're speaking about a full nation, okay, that is sitting down every year on the Passover night and saying the story that started with someone, not with someone, with a generation, where you have all the names there, not only Moses and Aaron and the sister Miriam, okay? Speaking about a nation where you have all the names. Another 2 weeks, we're going to read again all the names. We have all the names, all the tribes there. We know exactly who are the families, and everybody is passing it already for almost 4,000 years. Every year, the grandfather is teaching the son and the grandson, okay, for the last 4,000 years. We passed this story. It happened to us. So we don't care if the archaeologist people found something or didn't found something. In a moment, I'm going to surprise you. There is also a lot of people, or a lot of archaeologists who found all sorts of things that are showing this story. But I don't care. They found it, they didn't found it. It's not part of me. We, as a Jewish nation, we are living this story. This is something that happened to us. And this is also one of the reasons that I will say to you, I will try to give you another example.
Rabbi, can I try to demonstrate my understanding of what you just said?
Yes.
My father lost. My father's father died at 16, and during the time that I knew my father, which was very little, I didn't know my father very well. He never brought up his father. He never talked about him. But my father had sisters and brothers, but they never talked about him either. They never brought him up. So I believe what they're saying, that he lived. I believe that without proof. That's what you're saying, I think. I think that's what you're...
You believe?
I believe that my dad's father lived, was alive, and...
Even though I don't know him, I didn't recognize him.
Right. I don't even know what he looks like.
Okay, because you don't have a picture, unfortunately,
No,
because it was very old days.
Yes.
Very long days ago. Fair enough. It's very similar. I wanted to say something very similar. In an environment of the full world. Okay. If I will ask you today, did there was an atomic bomb sometime in the history of the world? So you will tell me, yes, of course, in the Second World War, we all know the American people threw out the atomic bomb on the Japanese. By the way, it was a very big competition between them and the German people, who were also trying to... The question was, who is the first one who's going to build up this atomic bomb?
Yes.
Fair enough. But today, do we have people today who saw this bomb? No. This bombing? No. They all died. They all passed away already. It was 85 years ago, I think, or not if all of them, most of them passed away. Okay. Now, but on the other side, you can see how much the world is around this issue of the atomic bomb, that, God forbidden, some sort of a terrorist group won't have an atomic bomb in their hands, right? Why everybody is so afraid?
Because they saw what it did.
It gave so big impact on the world. Mm-hmm. So everybody is really, trying to be afraid from that. But if you ask people, did you saw the atomic bomb? We saw pictures. We saw some sort of a movie that we all know today, especially with the chat GPT-4, that you can invent a lot of pictures and movies that nothing is really real. Okay, so this is not why we believe in this or not. We believe in this because the world today have some sort of an impact of that thing. The Hebrew nation is living in this impact of the Hebrew people going out from the Egypt land with their behavior to the others, to the slaves, to others. This impact in the Hebrew nation is so big until today. So you can't say it didn't happen, it did happen. The Hebrew people are some sort of an identity that is testifying that this thing happened.
Okay.
We don't need archaeologists from somewhere that will tell us that it happened or didn't happen. Okay. Now let's look a bit more at the Kuzari, because after the Kuzari is saying, if there's any questions, this is the time. Sorry. Yes, please. Someone wanted to ask? Yes.
Yeah. Hi. I think that was also one of the, I guess maybe not proofs. Maybe proof is a little bit of a strong word to use, but understandings that the Torah was given from Hashem to Moses, and then that it was a mass revelation, that there was a large group of people there to witness it and to be a part of that, is because a lot of the commandments don't really make a lot of sense, and that they would be almost onerous, like too onerous, like how would this be logical that people would take on all of these commandments and all of these things to do if they weren't compelled by the presence of God?
I will try. You're saying good things, but I will need to. I need to put them in the exact line. I will say it like that. Okay. First of all, everything is starting with something that you will never find that archaeologists that will show us that it happened, because something that is called prophecy, and people are very confused. Prophecy is not saying the future. Prophecy is the speaking. God is speaking with people. God who created this world is speaking. Just to realize that, I will try to say this in this way. If, for example, someone is inventing electric car, his name is, I don't know, somewhere from South Africa, and now he's starting to speak with those cars. It's insane. Okay, the cars don't have any relation with him, because he with all of his tough people, whatever the other, when he is so outside of it, he is the mind behind this thing, right? So now suddenly a group of people, but not one, not two, not 12 messengers, no, we're speaking about 6,000-7,000 people, have the presence of speaking with God. They all heard God speaking with them. Now this is something that in the inside. Now, first of all, it's insane. It's insane to think that the one who created this world, created men, is speaking with men. Just like Elon Musk won't speak with the car. Okay, I'm giving an example, but it's a lot. This is the logic of the philosophers and everybody, the normal logic. And suddenly, the Hebrew people are saying this is something that happened, not only to me, also to my friend next to me, and also to the friend next to me, and the next neighbor in the next door. And we all heard the same words, and we all heard the same message, that Moses is going to be the messenger of God. This is what we all heard. We heard the 2 commandments, or the 10 commandments, also the 2 of the 10 commandments inside the first 2. Okay, we heard those commandments from God, and God also told us that Moses is going to be the messengers for us, and he's not going to be changed until the time that the Messiah will come. Okay, and also then it won't change. It's a very interesting structure how things are going to be then. But
when you were sharing this point with me a few years back, it really hit home when you talked about that they all ate the manna for 40 years. You got to really think about it. This is really where it hit home. I mean, the impact of 40 years, an entire generation, and then sharing that with the next generation. That's what we did. We ate for 40 years the manna in the wilderness. And that's, I mean, we all go through stigmas and traumas and incidences in life that stick with us and impact us. But imagine doing that 40 years and how that impacted on them transmitting that message. This is something that really happened.
You can't come to a generation, okay, after 7 years they conquered the Hebrew land, and they're saying, and the kids are saying to, those who are getting born and all those things, saying to them, but where were you, before that? And they're saying, we lived in the desert. For how long? 40 years. And what did you eat? Grandpa, what did you eat? My father, what did you eat? Oh, we ate the manna. What is the manna? No, it's something, we ate something there. For how long? For 40 years. It can't be. The archaeologist can't find it. Fair enough. So he's going to play with his friend in the other, with his friend neighbor, and he hear that his father of the friend neighbor saying the same thing, and also the next one, and he's going to another part of the country, and he hear that the same. Everybody's saying the same thing. Now you can say, but we never saw this with the archaeology people. Fair enough. So you never saw it. But the nation, as nation, speaking about 40 years, we lived in the desert and we ate from the manna. This is much greater than just a miracle. So, so we have here 2 things. First of all, we all spoke with God. In a moment, I'm going to show this in a verse. Okay, we all spoke with God in a direct way, and we heard that Moses is going to be the messenger. God told us. Now, this is something very inside. I heard the voice of God inside me, not me. Okay, I wasn't there. I was there only in my soul. Okay, I heard God speaking with me and telling me that the commandments and that Moses. And then my friend also says to me that he heard the same thing, and also the other friend, okay, fair enough. I'm starting to realize that this is what's happening. Now, I'm not the only one who is imagining things. Okay, and then we're getting stuck in the desert because of the spies and the spy story and all of this thing for 40 years, and we're eating each morning the manna, and then we are continuing on and we're telling this to the next generation who saw this. Now, part of the next generation grew up in the desert also. They were born in the desert and they grew up in the desert. So we're speaking here about something that happened to a full generation, okay, for 40 years. Now, there are also some of the ideas, some of the also commandments are on the level that have no reasonable explanation, okay? We have, for example, this week, Parsha, that we're going to read next week in the diaspora, we're going to read it another 2 weeks from now, that is saying, it's very known, let me show you a few verses, okay? We also, after all, we're still learning also still learning Genesis, what we call, but it's not going to be Genesis, fair enough. First of all, let me show you, please read verses number 1 and 2.
Number 1, the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the statute of the Torah which the Lord commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and have them take for you a perfectly red, unblemished cow, upon which no yoke is laid."
Now, this is the thing, this is the words, the statute of the Torah, okay? It's in Hebrew, it says Chukat Torah. It's something that is not reasonable. Now, basically, it's in the Numbers, okay? Chapter 19, all this chapter of 19. This is a very unreasonable situation. I won't go inside all of this, but I will say, not now, okay? But I will say that it's basically speaking about the moment of life and death. Now, if you will ask the philosophers in the last 2,500 years ago, one of the biggest mysteries that we have is the question of life and death, okay, or how exactly there is a life inside a body. It's been called the psychophysical question. Psychophysical question, nobody have an answer till today. And this is what's written down here. Those are one of the things that we need to do, while we don't have any explanation to this thing, any reasonable or any something that we can explain with a reason. By the way, it's also written down that King Solomon, who was the most smartest person in this world, he's saying about this specific commandment that he is trying to understand that he didn't understand. Until today, there is no, I will say, reasonable explanation about the connection between the body and the soul. Psychophysical question, okay? And there is no, why exactly do I raise my hands? There is no physical reason for that. It's only my will. My will organize something that I'm raising my hand. But this thing of life inside the body is something that we don't really know how exactly it's happening. So there are things also in the Bible that we are dealing with the questions of life that we don't have full explanation. What I wanted to show before we'll continue with the Kuzari is another thing that is related with the Deuteronomy. It's chapter 5. Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake all the time. They change something and here it is. It's not here. Sorry. Please read. Now I will say another very important, before we're going to read it, I'm going to say another very important point. There are things, let me share it like that, and then we're going to read it. There are things that are unreasonable, I will say it like that someone will start to invent them. For example, if, for example, in your neighborhood, James, okay, a young kid, 4 years old, will come back to his home, okay, with a large, 4 years old, okay, with a large, no, let's go to a different scenario. I will be more exact. We all know the Hamish. You all know the Hamish cult? Do you know the Hamish cult?
Amish.
Yes, the
Okay.
Hamish cult, okay?
Yes.
They are living in I will say, in the 18th century, right?
Yes.
They're not
Yes.
living with us. I think for a moment, Angela and Mike, do you know the Hamish cult? Okay, so think for a moment that one of the kids, 5 years old, of the Hamish cult is coming to his parents and saying few words in the Japanese language with a big camera, of Nikon, and telling them, we can picture people. So the parents will ask them, from where do you know this? And he will say, I found it, and suddenly I understood few words in Japanese, and I have this camera. Okay, the parents will tell him, no, of course, you met someone that is speaking this language, he taught you a few words, and he gave you the camera as a present. No, this is what we will say, right? This is reasonable situation. Now, there are things that you can't imagine that people will say, unless it happened to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. There are two things that the Hebrew people are saying that happened to them that nobody thought that it could happen ever in the world. The first one, that God, who created this world, is going to speak with the man, with the person, of course, especially not for a full nation. And the second thing is that the nation will be able to live in other places and suddenly to go out from the nation and to become a new nation. Those are things that never happened before the Hebrew people said that it happened to them. By the way, look what's happening in our generation, okay, 70 years ago. Suddenly the Hebrew people came out from more than 200 countries and restored back and built up a nation back, okay? Saying to yourself, okay, it's a unique thing, but it happened in Egypt. So let's see for a moment how it's being written down in the scripture, okay? So Dan, please read verses number 32, 33, and 34.
32. For ask now regarding the early days that were before you, since the day that God created man upon the earth, and from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens, whether there was anything like this great thing, or was the likes of it heard? Did ever a people hear God's voice speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard, and live? Or has any good God performed miracles to come and take him a nation from the midst of another nation, with trials, with signs, and with wonders, and with war, and with a strong hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great awesome deeds, as all that the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes?
We're saying that we had two claims that nobody ever said before. Nobody ever thought that he can say those things. Till then, we never saw someone that said that God spoke with the full nation. Okay, God's voice was speaking out from the midst, okay, and the fire to the whole nation. Nobody said something like that. Nobody claimed it. That God took out with miracles, whatever it is, with all of the 10 pledges or whatever it is was there, and he took out a nation out from Egypt. Nobody went out from Egypt, okay? Think about this. It was more or less like China of today. You can't go out from China if they don't want you to go out, okay? Right. Like Russia until the 90s, okay? That you can't go out from Russia if Russia don't want you to go out. This was the situation with Egypt. And suddenly, there is a nation that is claiming two unreasonable reasonable claims. It's just like in the Hamish cult that the young kid, 5 years old, is starting to claim that he knows Japanese because he invented it from his head. Nobody will believe him unless it happened, unless he really met someone. So we, the Hebrew people, we don't need all the agricultural people to find all sorts of proofs that it happened or didn't happen. It was on us. We lived it. We are living it till today. And
So my confession today, and I mean this humbly, is that I find it so easy to accept, as Aristotle taught us, that there's a prime mover and there's an essence in between the prime mover and the object that's being changed. I can accept that. I was taught that in undergrad. I can accept that. My arrogance keeps, this is the confession, my arrogance keeps me from accepting wholeheartedly what you're saying. I wasn't born Jewish.
Excellent.
I'm not Jewish. I mean,
excellent.
I've been
excellent. Fair enough. Excellent. Now, applause for James. Everybody. Excellent. I agree with you 100%. So this is why, exactly, this is why when I shared with you the Kuzari with Rabbi Yehuda Levi, straight after we spoke about this paragraph number 11, okay, I jumped to 26 to show you that also the Kuzari is saying it. It's not related to us. You see the Kuzari? If this be so, then you believe is only for yourself. It's not connected to us. I'm not Jewish. Right? This is what you said to me. Excellent.
Yes.
I agree with you. So let's learn the Kuzari to understand what's happening. Exactly. There's an answer there. Now we're starting to realize you are more than right. You're thinking logically right. What I want that you will all understand. You are not strange people. You're not unreasonable people. You are normal people, and you're thinking right. And what the Jewish people are claiming and saying, it is a bit different. It's new. It's the realm, or it's the dimension of the prophecy. It's a different dimension. And the truth is that today it's much easier for me. You know why? Because after 2,000 years that we were in the exile, and there were no other nation in the exile except for the Hebrew people. All the other nations who went out to exile vanished, and only the Hebrew people managed to hold themselves in the situation that even though they were in exile, they managed to restore themselves back, okay, after 2,000 years. And there is some sort of I will say, a message, not only for the Hebrew people in the Bible, but for all of the people of the world. And we have a responsibility to give it to the others. So you're more than right. It's important for me also this time to stay with the question. But when we understand the question and we are realizing that it's legitimate to have the question, then we will be able, first of all, I'm offering you, I'm urging you to read the Kuzari. I have no problem next week to speak about it, okay, and to give also the answer. But first of all, let's be aware that there is this question, and it's a true one, and we need to realize exactly what the Hebrew people are saying. And it is differently, totally different than all of the, sorry of the word, okay, I'm sorry, of the nonsense of the theology, of all sorts of ideology and theology of other religions. I will only hint, okay, that we are not trying to prove if there is God or if there isn't God. This is not, it's not our agenda. We're doing something else, all totally else. On the other side, it's related to all of the people of the world, even though the Hebrew people are the only one, or this is the only, I will say, belief that don't think that everybody's supposed to be Jewish. If you will go to the Christian world, they are very hard. if you don't believe in Jesus, and if you're not Christian, you won't have the world to come. If you will go to the Muslims, they're even harder. If you don't believe in Muhammad, they will take your head off, or they will burn you. I don't need to say, we all know the ISIS and all of those things. Okay, the only nation who is not saying that you're supposed to become Jewish is the Hebrew people, or you're supposed to become like us. So we need to realize, we need to understand what exactly the Hebrew people are saying and how it's related to everybody. And it's different mindset. Let's stay with the question. First of all, I see Rabbi Shmuel here. Thank you very much. Good evening.
My great pleasure. Been around already for some time.
And so we're staying here with the question, and we will continue this next week. And I'm urging you, I'm saying to you, the homework for next week, you know that I was a high school principal, so I love to give also homework from time to time. The homework that we have is to read in the Kuzari, okay, from number, just a moment, let me share the screen. I can send also this link. In a moment, I'm going to share this from number 11. Just a moment, let me see that I'm not mistaken. Yes, from number 11, okay, until number, we won't be able to finish everything next week, but we'll do something until number, those are two parts. Maybe we'll manage to do only one of them. Until number 43, okay? Those are two parts. It's not one part. Maybe we'll manage to have only one and the other one in the next week. Those are very, very essential points, but it will start to put us in the right, I will say, relationship with God.
That can be found where
I'm sending now on the chat the exact. It is. What happened?
the Kuzari.
It's too long. Paste. Why is yes, I'm sending it in a moment. Just one, let me see. Can we? Sorry, copy like just a moment.
One of the resources I use is Shabbat.
Here it is. You have it now. You have it now on the chat. Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you have the Kuzarin. We're going to speak about this next week. Rabbi Hershlo, please. Then also,
yes, thank you, Rabbi Goldberg.
I'm not running away. We will have a possibility also to ask questions. Please.
I would like to somewhat highlight about one of the things Rabbi Goldberg had just mentioned. From my perspective, part of the reason why in Judaism we are definitely against the missionary activity is because we don't necessarily see, and I personally definitely share that we don't see ourselves as superior to others. We are grateful for the obligations and commandments that we have. And there are differences in relation to that, even within the Jewish people themselves, between the priests, the Levites. There's difference between genders related to these topics, and there are certain issues that relate to a firstborn. In a nutshell, within the commandments themselves, there is a very wide diversion and dispersion between the obligations of people within the system itself. Consequently, if the Noahide rules were to be met, that plays a very important role in the divine world. And in general, there's a very clear approach that we are not creating ex nihilo anything. Abraham came to the world only 20 generations after the world was already created. When he came to the land of Israel, there were already the Canaanites and Perizzites living there. We didn't start neither the first religion nor even to be the first people to live in the Holy Land. What we have done and what we hopefully are continuing to do is to make the place a better place to be and to refine our behavior through the wonderful ethics that Torah conveys to us and to each group that is related to its share to do the best moral out of that. Therefore, James, I don't see any reason why you should feel a guilty conscience to the least. If any person fulfills his role in the world without arrogance, simply doing it correctly and taking it all the way, it is a more meritorious than going into a project that's not part of. I'm never going to be a priest because my father wasn't, and my grandfather was not, and I wasn't the firstborn in my family, and my gender is male. So each person has a certain group that he belongs to, and there are many different facilities of what a person can do with that and play a major role. Even when the Kuzari talks about the divine message, which is given to people that are close to him, that doesn't rule out the option that Noahides would actually have prophecy. There were prophets amongst the Gentiles themselves. And the portion we'll read another week and a half from now as a well-known prophet, Bilam, who certainly had the prophecy by him. As I want to highlight this point again, our main goal is to refine and upgrade the ethical standards through the commandments that we were given, and each group within its role has what to actually do in order to be part of this. And we all, I'm talking to everybody in this group, we all have a major role to contribute in making the world a more ethical and a divine place like it should be. And there doesn't have to be equilibrium in relation to this. Just like in things which are far less important, like how much money each person makes, it really makes no difference if one makes this amount, this one makes half of that, this one makes a third of it. The question is, are you a good person? Are you decent? Are you fulfilling your goal? And how much material pleasure you obtain in this world, it's really not something which has long-term ramifications. If each and every one of us will proudly do and fulfill their role adequately, we can be very proud of ourselves. When we try to do things that don't belong to us directly, it usually doesn't work. I know Rabbi Goldberg and his great sources that he's teaching in Bible is gradually getting there. But for example, when the Jewish people entered Israel in the time of Joshua, it took 400 years, no less, until they appointed a king. And the first two kings were rather a failure. Only when David became the third king, first Saul and his son were kings, and it wasn't very successful. David, who was apparently suitable for it from the beginning, was the first time it worked. And don't get yourself mistaken. Even after he was there and his son Solomon, who had built the temple, you can't actually see the whole picture there as to be successful. So even when you do have the commandments and you do have the land and you even have good conditions like it were in the time of David and Solomon, is no guarantee that we are going to do it unless we play our role to its highest degree. What Kuzari is saying is that we have the potential, and that is true, that the Jewish people who have more commandments have more goals and more clues that bring us closer to God if we live up to the standard. But until then, everybody has a role to play in their share, and therefore there's no reason that I have to become a woman or I have to become a Noahide, and just like a Noahide doesn't have to become Jewish, and a female doesn't have to become a male. My dynasty. And I'm totally happy with it, and it's fine with me. I do have a son-in-law who is a priest by his family, and each one does his own thing. And we have a major task, but a major one, to live up to the standards of what we can do and accomplish within our religious behavior. And as the rabbi mentioned, that Muslim, at least the formation of the religion included, and certain groups still this very day, include violence, which is totally contradictory to the idea of developing an ethical standard of religion. The 10 Commandments, which are the principles that any faith really should have as a prerequisite to be part of a given religion, should be ideas.
We're losing you. We're losing him. Wow, we lost him.
Yeah, excellent
Unfortunately, we lost him.
material for sure. It's
Ju-
about
just-
achieving potential, and we each have unique potential at different places all around the planet. And the Hebrew purpose. I think James is trying to understand more of the target he should be aiming for in life, and the reality is that is unique to each and every individual, but not to get lost in total subjectivity, but fulfill your potential.
Should be back.
Oh, I think he's back.
I'm sure I'm back, but
We can hear
I
you,
don't know
Rabbi
how-
Hirschler, but we can't see you.
Just like
You'll
us.
see me. Yeah. Incidentally, I was getting my picture. Yeah. Okay. Incidentally, in this portion this week, 2 of the 3 leaders of the Jewish people are to pass away. Miriam, the sister of Moses and Aaron Aaron himself. And the only one who's going to remain after this coming week is Moses. And if anybody thinks that our world is dependent on the greatest people on the earth and otherwise we cannot function, that is totally wrong. And that's part of the mission. It would actually be counterproductive if all 3 leaders of the Jewish people would have died in the last portion of the Torah. The fact that Moses actually carries on with us until we are about to enter the country, but the 2 other leaders, his brother and sister, were senior to him by age, but were very influential. And gradually we developed our own independence. Some of us, are not getting any younger. Even I and Rabbi Goldberg are not such spring chickens anymore. And one of the things is when you have children who are already married, one of the questions is from when do they, if they do, and I'm sure some of you will smile when I say this, when do they actually become independent in all senses of the word? When do you leave go? When do they actually develop their ability to stand on their own feet? This is something that we all are looking forward and proud when we see this happen. And therefore, I think the greatest, somebody actually non-observant, but a very intelligent Israeli writer wrote a couple years ago that when Moses was on Mount Nebo just before he died, he made an mission for 40 years, worked on it so hard, and they don't even let him put 1 foot in Palestine, 1 foot in the Holy Land in Israel. You worked so hard, God, why don't you give him it? No, he doesn't need to get there. He needs to be proud to see that his disciples and his children and his effort is going to be done by the next generation, and it's absolutely fine. We just have to have enough humility and being humble and saying, listen, it's not all going to be done by us. There are other people who are going to do it. But we have to leave go at some stage and make it happen. So when Aaron and Miriam actually pass on, the motion and the mission continues. And that's what I want to share with you today. We're getting deep into the summer now, second half of June already. Some people are taking off, but don't leave go. Keep control, continue the dynamics, and get it all through the summer. And every year, when you are partially in the break also with your family, see how things develop and continue. God is looking after us for so many generations, and I think he's actually proud of this generation. There's a lot of good things that are happening now, and he is, obviously the things that need to be corrected, but we don't have what to be embarrassed of. We have a lot of optimism, and the Kuzari gave us that potential in saying, we can really make it work. And that's what I want to say to you today. Let's make it work.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Just a moment. I must finish with another small thing to all of you. Okay, now James, look good. After we spoke like that, we explained everything. I'm going to share now something from the archaeological people that are saying that it's some sort of a proof, archaeological proof for the Hebrew people going out from Egypt. Okay, so for that, first of all, I'm sharing again a link. Okay, and let me share for a moment the screen. I'm going to share two things. You're going to be surprised. So first of all, this is the king that is being that everybody thinks, or most of the people thinks, that this is a king that was in the time of Moses. Okay, there's also some sort of a hint in his name, but we're speaking about the timing that is really right. And in the inside, I'm going to share this with all of you. Okay, let me show you. In the inside, let me share this first of all in the chat. First of all, I gave you now in the chat this link, okay, of this place. Now in the chat, I'm going to share another thing very important. Now, Dan, if it will be okay, you're going to show this. Okay, in a moment it will come to all of you. I'm going to stop the share, and you're going to share the screen.
Yeah, I got it up, Rabbi. Everybody, I haven't shared the link out on
No,
the YouTube.
no, not the link. Now I shared also a Word document. Okay, look, you see the Word document. So let me give you the permission to share the screen, and please share the picture there. Okay, of the Word document. It is showing the inside room of this king. Okay, showing the inside room of this king, and you can see there the story of the sea. Okay, oh, here it is. Oh, what are you showing now? You're showing now the documents, the Word document.
I'm
Open the
not
Word
sure
document.
which document you want me to highlight
I shared now a Word document.
Yeah, I have the article up.
Okay. No, not. There's also, I shared another thing on the chat.
Hold
See
on.
the chat.
Let me just get out of this and
you all see that? The thing that I shared, the other things? Yes, the document, exactly.
okay. I don't use Word, so it's not
Okay,
allowing
okay.
me to
I also have this problem. This is why I wanted. Oh, never mind. I will share
Hold on.
this. So
Open file. Let's see.
if there is a
Okay, I
problem,
got
I
it.
will share.
Yeah, here it is, Rabbi.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so now share the screen for everybody.
Woo.
You can share the screen. After that, when you will look at this, okay, it's you have a problem there to uploading it. Also, I have also a problem. The only thing I'm going to tell you, okay, if you will see the story that is being painted on the wall, you will see that he had problems of going down to the sea after the Israeli people because of the fire. This is exactly what is written down in the scripture. And then when he went inside, so the water closed on them. And this is one of the interesting things that the agriculture found that is also sharing the same story that we have. Okay. And I don't need it. I really don't need it. It is. Now you can show the screen. I don't need this thing, but even though there are also those things, because it really happened. It happened to us. So now we finished to say everything. And I hope that I gave you all the resources, okay? So you can find it, you can take it, you can use it, you can learn it, you can. I shared it also in the Word document, so you'll be able to translate it to your.
Okay, Rabbi, I got it up in the share screen now.
So you can see it here. It's inside the wall. First of all, you have it, okay? It's inside there, and you can find all the story about the water,
the drowning,
and the drowning, everything else. Again, you can also, there's on the side here in Hebrew, you have also all the explanations in Hebrew. You can translate it. I'm sharing it. I shared it with the Word document, so you'll be able to translate it to any language that you want to translate, to read it, to understand everything that's happening there. Here is one of the places where the agriculture saw that archaeology saw that it's related with the scripture of the Bible. But again, we don't need it. We don't need it because it happened to us. So that's it. You can finish. You can stop sharing the screen. We show this for the people outside also from the room. Let's see the people again. Please, Dan. Okay, stop the sharing the screen, and that's it. Fair enough. Questions, things that you want to mention about today?
I want to ask Dan a question. Dan, please. When is your Zoom class, and how do I get into that one?
Which Zoom class?
The Nehemiah.
The Nehemiah's in the. Let me just pull it up here. I'll get the Nehemiah's in the Nativ Zoom room. Let me just pull that up right here.
Is that the same Zoom that I'm using here?
No, here, I'm going to put it right here in the chat right now.
Okay.
Chat, and I just share it to everybody. This is for Rabbi Ingber. That is actually Rod Bryant's Nativ Zoom meeting. So I don't, Rod hosts that. He's the educational director there at Nativ, and great guy. He usually opens it about 15 minutes early. That will be starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. here Pacific, and so it's about an hour and 20 minutes from now. We'll be going live with our we call it our Working Together series with the Nativ group. Wonderful people, always got lots of rabbis sharing plenty of messages, but the whole idea is to show the public that we can work together, and it's not us against the other group or anything of that nature. And Rabbi Ingber's doing a wonderful job opening Q&A on any topics generally, especially in the meetings. If he doesn't know you often, if you put the hand up in the Zoom meeting, they usually get to any questions. But wonderful rabbi, very smart rabbi who taught in Atlanta, Georgia for a whole career, and I believe he's retired from his congregation in Atlanta, and now he's spending more time abroad. Just had a couple of new grandsons in Israel, and he's been sharing. He's got family in Israel, but he's got a lot of grandkids in the U.S., so he's be making his way, I think Rabbi Goldberg said, back to Israel shortly. So, we do appreciate everything he shares, and the more you get to understand how the man, every rabbi is unique. They've got their own thought patterns and their own approaches and angles, and some of them just turn the light bulbs on different for each and every one of us. But you really only get there when you formulate questions, and I find some of the greatest rabbis will clarify your own question, ask you a question back. So the question you're getting back is not always a challenge. It's more just to help you refine your question, and a lot of times people don't realize they're making statements rather than questions. So legitimate questions, most rabbis will embrace the question and give you the Torah perspective, and so it's always a joy. Rabbi Ingber's got some beautiful material. So there, you got the link there. Any questions for Rabbi Hirschler or Rabbi Goldberg while we're
I
still
see
open?
that Ariel have a question. Right, Ariel, hold on. I can't hear you. Yes, please. Anava also have a question, please.
Yeah. I just want to. I guess I have a comment, and Nathan has a question.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to. So I guess I'll just say my comment first. But I'm just so thankful for this group. We're not always able to sign on every week, but I mean, these teachings, and Dan, you're always there to host, and Rabbi Goldberg, you're just so, like, you guys are just so disciplined, and committed, and it's just such a blessing, and I just love these classes, and it just brings me so much closer, all the time, and I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
I had a
Yes.
question. It just came up today, and it's a little bit off topic from what we were talking about today, but when Adam and Eve ate from the tree, what if they said a braha?
Good question.
And I'm wondering about that, if they knew what they were doing, and would have that been something that they would have done at that time, or did that come
Rabbi
later?
Hirschler, do you want to answer that?
Actually, it's interesting that in the rabbinical literature, there is a whole discussion about what actually was the tree. Was it a fig tree? Was it a grape? There's an opinion that it was wheat. And there's an opinion that it was a citrus fruit. So even if there were a benediction to say, Question is which one to say. But what you're saying is very nice in the sense that the examples that were brought, namely the fig and the grape, are fruits that are fundamentally symbolic by the land of Israel. And many have an assumption that the Garden of Eden was a miniature land of Israel that we have. And in the grace after meals that a Jew says, you mention the land of Israel every time you eat bread. It's part of the blessing itself. So I can't tell you directly what exactly occurred then, but I can tell you for sure that the idea that getting this surplus from God is something that was well appreciated. The problem was that they felt that they wanted to put their own independent part in it as well. If you tell, Rabbi Goldberg was a high school principal, if you tell kids at adolescents, there's certain books that you're not allowed to read, that's the next thing they're going to take out of the library for sure. If you try to explain what is good about positive literature and put focus, it may put them and make them interested. But once you start censoring, the human being doesn't go for that. They always have their interest of being independent. And when you're great, you show gratitude. Absolutely. When you show gratitude towards blessing, that means you're saying you're grateful for what God has given you. And that's so nice. When Eve had her first boy, she said, I'm creating a person with God. I don't think I could have said a nicer blessing than she did. That was very true.
Well said, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions for Rabbi Hirschler or Rabbi Goldberg?
I'm very shy today. Everything is fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think
I had a comment
yes.
maybe to make just on the discussion we were having. So Rav Yosef Mizrahi talks a lot about that, how the difference between the Jewish people and other faiths, and how when God comes to Moses, Moses says, well, why would they follow me? Why would they, they're not going to listen to me. And that was a logical rebuttal to God. And God says, I'm going to speak to you in front of everyone, and that'll be reason enough for them to believe in you for eternity. And then he speaks about the fact that the Torah is the only document that was given to the people themselves who it's talking about. So in the revelation of the Torah, giving it to the people, like obviously in Exodus and in Deuteronomy, when Moses is saying, you, the people of Israel, told me to tell God, we can't hear anymore. Like, you go speak to him. And they're the ones that accepted that and then passed that forward. There's no other document in the world or no other group of people in the world who are the people, who are the characters or the people in the tradition. So I just thought that really for me was really foundational and made a big impact on me.
Yeah, it's true. This is also one of the things that, and we're sharing this from time to time also, those verses, and it's true. This is a part of the authenticity of this book. I will say it like that. This is part of the thing.
Wow, beautiful.
Also, I'd like to say that because we believe in humility, as part of what my message I gave for 10 minutes today is that since everybody has a certain role that they have to play, and we're not perfect, and Moses is saying, I'm not even sure they're going to believe me. So part of Moses was a very humble individual. He really thought genuinely that he's not going to get everybody to follow him. And everybody has their own way how to develop and grow. And consequently, that is why he had that feeling. But he really thought that not everybody is designated to follow, and everybody has their share that they're going to go for. And as you said beautifully, God says to Moses, I will come with you and you'll see how much the people really desire to be involved. And that was one of the wonderful things, that at the revelation, everybody was so impressed and felt that it was part of them. That's what was so special about it. It wasn't taken for granted.
Rabbi Hirschler, can I give you a question from YouTube? Craig is asking, he says he would ask that although Adam and Eve ate from the tree, was it control of the consequences of that act which they were not given?
The actual look, are you asking, were they aware of the potential punishment of not following the instruction? Is that what you mean?
The question says, was it control of the consequences of that act which they were not given? In other words, when the tree was put in front of them, they were told not to eat of it. Was it control of the consequences that they didn't? I think that's what he's asking. Was, the outcome, they couldn't control the outcome. Often I understand that humanity, we don't see things foresight. Our foresight is so limited, we only see things in hindsight. Adam and Eve didn't know it was wrong until after they ate, right?
There was an Israeli politician, well known, who used to say that a Jew answers a question by asking another question. In other words, basically, one of the fundamental things that comes up, God actually said to Adam and Eve that if you're going to eat from that tree, on that day you will pass on. And actually, he had a pretty long life. According to Genesis 5, Adam lived till he was 930 years old. I wish most of us will live that long. I can't guarantee you that that's what's going to happen. So what does it mean that on the day that he ate, he would pass away? Without going into a long discussion on this now, I'll give you just a general thought, which I think is worth it for this week to think of. We believe in principle in resurrection. We believe in the potential that our soul can carries on even after we physically are separated from the world. In the case of Adam, he was started off in the Garden of Eden, and he went and transitioned to our world as a result. In Genesis 3, it mentions that he was expelled from the Garden of Eden. We were born thousands of years after Adam and Eve. If we are lucky and credible, we have the potential when we leave here to go to the Garden of Eden. And that's also a maneuver. In other words, we are moving forward, and Adam and Eve, because of their transgression, move backwards. And that's what God meant when he said to them that you will die, meaning your transition will be a separation from the potential that you had to where you are going. Interestingly enough, there's a Talmud passage, Rabbi Goldberg knows better than I, that a baby that is born is taught the entire Bible. And after he's comes out and the baby starts to cry, he forgets what he had learned. Now, I don't know if I would check the IQ of a baby in his mother's stomach. Would you really find that his IQ would get him to a 200 result? I'm not sure. But the message that's conveyed over there is that we have the potential of discovering the divine message if we put enough effort into it, and it's ingrained in our system from the time of birth. Adam and Eve were the only people that I know that were born in the Garden of Eden, and therefore the potential was unlimited. But apparently the imperfection in the human race is such that the control, like you're saying, was not clear. What I think is he was told, and she was told clearly not to benefit from that tree. But what he didn't understand is the long-term ramifications of his act. How many times in life do we have that also? That people think of doing something and eventually ends up that people take it in the wrong perspective. It ends up negative. We don't always see the perspective when we do things. If we did, we'd probably do better, probably. I hope that helps.
Well, I hope that answers your question, Craig. It's a deep thought, and I the only way I could honestly make sense of the storyline is that there was a transition from a primitive state to to our current state, if you will. When I say primitive, don't get me wrong. I'm saying there was an innocence that existed prior that we no longer had, and that innocence was, they were, where it says they were naked and not ashamed. The point is, they didn't make any difference. There was more, the state of innocence was gone, and you couldn't get it back. So, to understand the metaphysical doesn't register a lot with me. I did a lot of research trying to find tangible, actual links historically and archaeologically, and what exists, what doesn't, and the more you search, Rabbi Goldberg's been very clear. Most things prior to Genesis chapter 4, before the expulsion, were almost metaphysical in a sense. When you think heavenly versus this earthly plane, the only way to come to understand that is there was innocence and there was a loss of innocence, which is definitely a step down, as you put it, Rabbi Hirschler. Thank you for that.
Sure.
I think we've gone on a little longer than usual. Rabbi Goldberg, have you got anything you want to close with before next?
No. I think that we spoke a lot of things. I gave you also a bit of a
homework.
It's
Kuzari,
okay.
Essay 1, 11 to 43. Read for next week, and yeah.
Okay.
I've got cheat notes. I've still got the original videos of your teachings from those series, so.
It's great. And if an Ava wants to do the homework, I'm going to be very annoyed with the parents. Be careful.
Okay, we will keep her on track. Don't worry.
She'll teach us.
Yeah, first ourselves. Yeah.
All right. So, Rabbi, we're definitely on for next week, same time.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, yes. With God willing. Yes.
Now, Rabbi Hirschler Craig says, thank you for your wonderful answer. All right, folks, I think that'll be a wrap for our Genesis class for today. We will be going live in about an hour and 5 minutes with Rabbi Carmi Ingber in our Nativ Working Together series. So if you want to join for that, we'll be back in just over an hour. Till then, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.